Hello everyone, my name is Lady and today we're going to share with you our pechacucha showing you all the steps that we have made to construct our thesis. My group is conformed by Jesus Avila and Carol Iscano. So these degree words arise from the interest regarding to how individual emotionality can impact the educational processes and how people can learn a new language, in this case, English. So, this thesis focuses on regarding an impact intercultural bilingual education in rural areas with the population of basic primary. Something important in this thesis is that it's an interdisciplinary. What it means. Jesus and me are part of the bachelor's degree in bilingual education, and Carol is part of the bachelor's degree in basic primaries. So, through this connection, we are working in the construction and implementation of a pedagogical strategy. So, this is the goal of the thesis. Finally, this research was developed on their qualitative approach. For us, it's pretty important because it enables to analyze and collect data in much better and effective way, taking into account our interests. So let's continue and see all we have made.
To start this slideshow, we want to share with you a little quote that represents the essence of our degree word, that is, feelings can be ignored no matter how unjust or ungrateful they seem, by Anna Frank.
So, as our partner Carol shared with us the contextualization, we're going to go deeper in the problem assignment. So, we threw out our immersion in the pedagogical practice and carry out in the Institución Educativa Departamental Alfonso Pavón Pavón through participant observation. So the first problem that was recognized is that the teacher in charge doesn't have the basis to lead a bilingual school content, nor the time to train in those bases. Since she's changing of a multi-grade having several responsibilities as is cited in Buitrago 2017. This is a pretty important author in our thesis. And the head teacher doesn't have enough space to properly develop an English class.
The second problem observed was that bilingual programs have not been applied in the institution, which shows that the government doesn't pay effective attention to rural areas, which means that the rural education doesn't always fully comply with the proposed bilingual programs from the Minister of Education.
The third problem analyzed was emotionality. The teacher is not empathetic enough with the individual emotionality of the students in the classroom, usually due to their stress, because of their little awareness of the impact of emotionality on children's learning. In addition, the educational institution does not have a psychological support network. Each of these factors determines the importance of creating the pedagogical strategy and applying it in the institution.
So, taking into account the above contextualization and the description of the problem, the following question is proposed. So, how to impact intercultural bilingual education processes, taking into account the individual emotionality of fourth grade students in the Institución Educativa Alfonso Pavón Pavón.
The objectives designed for this pedagogical strategy were, as general objective, we have to design a pedagogical strategy taking into account individual emotionality that impacts intercultural bilingual education processes in fourth grade children of the year de Alfonso Pavón Pavón. And the specific ones are, the first one is to elaborate a pedagogical strategy that recognizes individual emotionality in intercultural bilingual education processes in fourth grade students. The second one is to implement a pedagogical strategy that influences intercultural bilingual education and individual emotionality in fourth grade students. And the last one is to elaborate in reflective and pedagogical terms the scope of the implemented strategy to qualify it in its development and continuity.
Justification. The research is carried out under the guidelines of the Fundación Universitaria Unión Monserrate, complying with the requirements of the programs Bachelor's Degree in Basic Primary Education and Bachelor's Degree in Bilingual Education with the lines of research, human development in the basic primary, and bilingualism, society, and culture, respectively, whose objectives are to systematically inquire about the process of integral human development, process of development and school learning, and educational orientation, to enrich the educational scenarios by the bachelor's degree in basic education and the bachelor's degree in bilingual education, It is found as an objective, the development and integration of communicative and intercultural skills to promote the cultural relationships between the mother tongue and the second language.
So, the final objective of this degree work is to implement a pedagogical strategy that includes individual emotionality and intercultural bilingual education in the Institución Educativa Alfonso Pavón, guiding the investigation mainly by aspects such as social perception and cultural identity. Taking as a reference the postulate antecedents that we are going to explain later. So for us, there is a need to enhance the teaching learning of English and individual emotionality in the institution, since on many occasions children of these contents don't conceive the opportunities of learning a second language give to them. So they don't feel here or care for regarding the feeling that they experience, right? So this implementation wants students to project, express, and apply it themselves to their life project. So for that reason, as Suárez 2012 tell us, la proyección social enmarca un contexto más humano y profundo. Es la comprensión de un ser humano integral en una realidad social mediada por la cultura. Es otra forma de ver el mundo, a los demás y a sí mismo.
Now we are going to talk about the background. Well, initially search was carried out in databases such as ResearchGate, Dialnet, Cielo, and repositories of other universities such as Javeriana, using the following relationships. Well, it were bilingual education and emotion, educación primaria and escuela rural, bilingual education and rural education, emotionality and rural education, and educación bilingüe and educación básica primaria. The relationship between these categories were the following. Well, between emotion and bilingual education, the scientific article called Emotion-Based Language Instruction as a New Perspective in Bilingual Education, made by Adamson. The importance of emotion in learning a second language is mentioned. The article mainly helped to recognize more clearly the link between emotionality and learning a second language, as well as a new perspective regarding to bilingual education. The link between bilingualism and escuela rural, the degree work called Tendencia del Discurso del Bilingüismo en la Escuela Rural, made by Luisa and Lara Rodriguez. It is specified how bilingualism is developing rural skills. It can be observed as a general panorama of what is happening in the face of bilingual education in rural schools in Colombia, and how the national bilingualism program is being developed in Colombia. Regarding this, it is considered that teaching of English on many occasions, due to the reality of our country, becomes an aspect of privilege, because most of the public, rural, and some private institutions do not have the necessary factors to correctly implement bilingual education, or just don't see it as a priority. Well, the link between emotionality and rural education was the magazine article called Educación y Desarrollo Humano en Contextos Rurales, made by John Serna and Samuel Patilla. The purpose of that article is to review the various perspectives of the link between rural education and its importance in human development. It provides to us two main theoretical elements for the argument of why work from social projection and human development in rural education, integrating bilingualism in the classroom. It also allows seeing the weaknesses and strengths of the rural context and how
the relationships between educación bilingüe y educación rural was the degree work El inglés en la zona rural de Colombia, aplicación del modelo Working with People, del método Content-Based y de los ambientes de aprendizaje en la clase de lengua extranjera en su vía con Dinamarca, made by Laura Sofía Buitrago Pérez. Its ultimate goal is to support English in a rural area of Colombia. This reference serves as an input to analyze how the teaching of English is being implemented and developed in the rural context of Colombia, Likewise, it postulates a comparison between the urban schools and the rural schools that permits to guide and urge the problem present in the content of the rural education. And the last link was Education Bilingue and Educación Básica Primaria, whose likes was the degree work, la enseñanza del inglés a escuelas primarias rurales de Tapachula, Chiapas, caso Escuela Primaria Otilo Montaño, made by Maria Miley. Its purpose is to have a program that guarantees effective learning of English in primary education in rural schools. This text was very enriched in terms of the relationships it proposed between the teaching of English and basic primary education. In addition, its mentioning characteristics relate to human development, which span ideas and perspectives regards to this link.
So now continue with the explanation. We're going to talk about the theoretical framework. So we have three pillars, that is intercultural bilingual education, individual emotionality, and pedagogical strategy. In this case, I'm going to talk about the first one. So it is vitally to define first what is bilingual education, because those are a little bit different. So according to Janice in 2004, is defined as education that aims to promote bilingual or multibilingual competence by using both or all languages as a media of instruction for significant portions of academic curriculum. So also in this case, it is necessary to define what is a bilingual competence, that according to Janice again, is the ability to use the target language effectively and appropriately for authentic personal, educational, social, and or work-related purpose. Then the competence in bilingual education have the objective that the learner can make effectively the use of both languages in their personal, educational, and social context. So, given this context, intercultural bilingual education has the focus, like in bilingual education, of teaching one or more languages. So, while intercultural bilingual education, according to Abraham 2004, busca producir y usar un currículo en el cual las dos lenguas y las dos culturas, en un diálogo entre ellas, lleguen a un equilibrio respaldado por una realidad social. So, bilingual education works with languages, and it emphasizes the languages and not the method of the curriculum that continues to be the established in the system, without rebelling on the other culture. That is important. It works with translation, and it's not very interested in make the culture that is implicit in the language life. So, they indicates that when focusing in the intercultural bilingual education, culture must be in constant use as a factor of support and growth in the teaching and learning on the second language. So for this reason, it's essential that spaces for dialogue between the cultures that work on basic rural education.
Well, now about the emotionality. The emotionality, according to Gutiérrez, son un fenómeno natural, pues son consideradas como una reacción natural de todo individuo, y estos mostrarán distintas actitudes dependiendo de la situación que perciben. Well, as it can be seen, emotionality is an aspect that cannot be separated from human being. It is something that naturally accompanies each person, so it is essential to make it as an important part of education. On the other hand, the Oxford Language Dictionary assures that emotionality is the ability to feel emotion. That said, we decided to make it use of emotionality since, well, as it was defined, it is the ability to feel any emotion, and it doesn't include the negative ones. Each emotion influences all the actions that are frequently carried out. It changes the thoughts that are being developed and makes you experience various sensations that affect you for better or for worse. For that reason, it is essential to make it part of education.
Pedagogical strategy. The pedagogical strategy is defined according to Bravo, compone los escenarios curriculares de organización de las actividades formativas y de la interacción del proceso de enseñanza y aprendizaje, donde se logran conocimientos, valores, prácticas, procedimientos y problemas propios del campo de formación. Therefore, the pedagogical strategy is an input that allows the teacher to articulate knowledge, to different aspects and different contexts. However, it is clear to state that there are 5 types of pedagogical strategy: cognitive strategies, metacognitive strategies, playful strategies, technological strategies, and socioaffective strategies. Due to the characteristics of the thesis and its object, the chosen pedagogical strategy is the socioaffective one. According to Zambrano, this type of strategy has to do with the place and environment where the education and learning of the students take place, for the student to feel comfortable and free to express their abilities in the classroom or in their educational environment. It can be noted that this type of strategy is linked to what we want to build throughout the development of the degree work.
So now we're going to explain the methodology. The methodology is divided in 3 parts, and I'm going to explain the first one, that is the research scope. So this research assumes the qualitative approach, as I mentioned before, and is defined by Seul Michael in 2019 as the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting non-numerical data as language. Qualitative research can be used to understand how individuals subjectively perceive them and give meaning to their social reality. So it allows us to recognize individualities and suggest that immerse enable to analyze and collect the necessary data according to our interests. In addition, it provides elements that could be invisible in other type of research, such as, for example, the individual emotionality, which is one of the pillars of this research. In the qualitative approach, the population to be studied must be a more specific group, allowing better proximity with the students and making the relationship with the teacher in training stronger. Likewise, in the analysis, by not having such a large population, better an observation of each of the student gestures, emotions, or behavior can be carried out, which allows the researchers to detail a much more precise individual data collection. For this reason, this review work considered that the research approach is the most appropriate.
In terms of the type of research that was chosen, we agreed on action research, which, according to Parsons and Brown, action research is a form of investigation designed for use by teachers to attempt to solve problems and improve professional practice in their own classrooms. It involves systematic observation and data collection, which can be then used by the practitioners' research in reflection, decision making, and the development of more effective classroom strategies. As it can be noticed, action research allows us to identify an area of focus, collect data, analyze and interpret data, and develop an action plan on the various practices in which we participate.
Well, now we are going to talk about data collection. Well, data collection is the process of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest in an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer stated research question, test hypotheses, and evaluate outcomes. It allows connecting relevant information that give shape and support to different arguments that are presented, as well as support for what is being observed. Thus, this degree work is guided by 3 methods that are anecdotal records, teacher research diary, videos, and photographs. Well, anecdotal records. Anecdotal records are much more precise and objective way of collecting data. They collect the most emblematic and important moments that the students witnesses through their class. In the present investigation, this collection instrument was selected due to the different characteristics that characterize it. And mainly, it provides observation of concrete notes of what is happening, included in this the emotions that were witnesses at the moment. In addition to this, the data collection through audio records, it is possible to perceive the expression of the students, thus generate data that allows the researchers to analyze the context of what happened in each intervention. In the same way, anecdotal records allow quick annotation at the exact moment, which allow it to be complemented simultaneously with the teacher's diaries in the future, because they cannot vital details that can be made if they are not registered in accurate time. By the other hand, we have the teacher research diary. A research diary is a helpful tool in which it can be known many aspects about the perspective of the research concerning the investigate context. It is a mix of flexible information. The research diary can be seen as a melting pot for all of the different ingredients of a research project. It prioritizes experience, observations, readings, ideas, and a means of capturing the resulting interplay of elements. Taking advantage of this tool that is part of the qualitative research methods, the research in training considered to use these collection instruments pertinent. Since from the beginning of the implementation of the project, we elaborated a participatory observation detailing the context that we wrote in our filed diaries for the development of the thesis. This tool is important since it allows knowing the points of view, experience, and emotion of teachers in training regarding the filed, helping to provide other details regarding the investigation. At the last, we have videos and photographs. And well, an image can say more than 1,000 words beyond a long text with many points. This tool seeks to express naturally what the context presents, in this case for grade children, to detect and analyze their emotion through their non-verbal language, as it can look at the environment and what the photo wants to express. Photos are charged with psychological and highly emotional elements and symbols, which allows the native reader to express their thoughts. In the thesis, it is vital to have a visual evidence of the processes carried out with the children, since the products made, the interactive environment in which they were made, and the sensation they seek to express are transparently shared.